As Christina said,
meeting is being recorded.
we've worked together before on esoterics, and we've also shared some very nice barbecues and social events, which is even very pleasant. One of the things that I've found as I've gone through my various lives and incarnations is that what you think people know, they actually don't know. Either they've forgotten it, or they haven't had that experience because they're not being open enough to get it. And so one of the reasons that I've put in terms of that there is always flow around and things that can help you to deal with the agonies of life and all the other fear mongering and things go out. And these simple hacks have been around for millennia, but people have either forgotten, or it's intentionally been taken out of folklore and intentionally been taken out of groups of people because it doesn't suit the rulers. It doesn't suit the kings, and it certainly doesn't suit the New World Order. So one has to try to look and see within, because everything is vibration. Harmonics are really, really interesting. Because, as I was saying to Christine recently, there's been discord intentionally put out with broadcasting, with music, with resonance, and with frequencies, that actually, if you move to accord as opposed to discord, suddenly you get into a higher vibrational state. And if you get into a higher vibrational state, guess what? You don't get into fear. Now, one of the things that we've all been, unfortunately, swamped with is this fear and these worries in the last 2-3 years. And of course, now there's more of an awakening and people are realizing that actually they can get into their happy place. They can get into joy. There is a lot to feel good about. And all that then raises their vibration. And suddenly the world doesn't seem such a forbidding place. And so what I've tried to do when I've spoken to people before is to say, there is no one size fits all. There really isn't. There are so many different healing modalities and so many different wisdoms that one can get in touch with that can help you, and you very specifically. And, you know, Christine and Alan, obviously with regard to astrology, and some other of you might know that everybody's chart is very different. We all have a very different way of looking at the world. That is something that stops us, a lot of us, from being able to get in touch with ourselves. Now, I'm going to do a little exercise with you in a couple of minutes, which I call anchor it. Because what we've all been through in the past, and in past lives, if one understands that, is we've had happy times, we've had trying times, we've had probably some terrible times, but it's possible to bring yourself back to those happy times and to anchor it and those energies. So what I say to people is, and I'll invite you all to do this with me now, if you're there. Everybody okay for a little exercise?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, it's thumb and fingers together. Now, if you can't put them all together, don't worry, just imagine they're together. But you're going to end up like that at the end of it. So once you can anchor these, you can actually then hold on to them. But it's important to have the anchor with your fingers because that's symbolic. So the first thing I say to people is, look, think of a very happy place that's special to you. Think of a forest, think of your garden, think of, spending time in a museum or whatever it is, on a holiday, that then you can just think. So if I'm going to give you 30 seconds or so just to think of a very happy place, the sea, the hills, whatever it is. And when you've got it, anchor it like that. Okay. Now, the other thing, now you've got your place, you want to attach an emotion to it, and that is joy. Now, joy can come about through happy events, weddings, childbirth, having all sorts of things going on in life. Think of one moment that brought you real joy, and add that to you in your special place. And when you've got it, put your finger on the first one. Now a sound like the wind through the trees, or the lapping of the waves by the sea, or your baby's cry. Whatever that sound is, it gives you that wonderful feeling. Anchor it with the other places. Now make a difference. You've made a difference in people's lives, your family, your friends, your parents, your children. And when you felt that at any time in the past, and you know you've made a real difference, that makes you feel wonderful. Anchor that together. Now in your hand, with all those fingers on there, you can gently put them together and relax. But guess what? In here, you've now got the happiest of memories, the happiest of places, wonderful places to retreat to if you get into a situation of stress, or if you get into a situation of not knowing where to go, what to do. And I can assure you, when you do this, you will feel better, whatever the circumstances, because you will connect back to what you've had in the past and what you can have in the future. And from that position, you can get into flow, because you're resonating at a high enough level that everything goes with the energy and the harmonics that you're around. Now, one of the things that people quite often say is, how can I stay in that? You don't have to. That's this special moment that you've got now, and you can go back to it whenever you want to, because normal life has got to be lived, work has got to be done, problems have got to be attended to. But it actually helps you to then get it to a calm space where you can start to see the signposts. Now, what do I mean by the signposts? When all is still and you are in that very relaxed, happy place, you can then find a real understanding of what it is to listen and to hear. And I don't just mean hear with your ears. I mean, you can hear in lots of different ways. There's touch, there's sense, there's sixth sense, and you let things gently come to you, or you look around. And in those moments, when you have got yourself gently into a good space, you will see the universe is dropping little hints for you that you can pick up. And it may be something people say that just catches you. It may be something you see on the floor. It may just be a random thought. But once you are in that space, you will understand, now I can do something with this, or I ought to ring that old friend, or I ought to start that charitable work, whatever it is. And those little signposts just nudge you. And once you start seeing them, let me tell you, you can't stop seeing them, because they pop up more and more and more. Now, sometimes, like me in my early career, you try to ignore them. Well, let me tell you, it doesn't work, because they can be very persistent, and they can come at you and say, wait a minute, listen. Now, I was just your humdrum chartered surveyor and a property developer, and just minding my own business, happily moseying along. I'd had a few instances in my younger years, especially my teen years, of ESP and various things happening, but I'd put it to my back because I was more interested in the fast life, fast cars, fast women, fast living, and that was fine. Although it wasn't, because then I had the good fortune to become very ill. Now, I say the good fortune is because before that I wasn't listening to anything, but I got into, what do I do? What do I do? And so I was making an appointment to go to the hospital, and a voice as clear as a bell said, Robert, if you go to hospital, you will die. I thought, where is that coming from? So I then went into a little bit of a panic, and I'm in my young 20s and thinking, oh, that's not very good. And I'd had a doctor friend who said, oh, you know, you got a growth on your thyroid, boy, that's really not good. So a couple of days later, my mother said, oh, she said, I happened to just be in the chiropractor, she said, and they said, how were you? And I said, oh, you weren't well at all. And she said, this woman started to scribble a note saying, had you got an open mind? Tell him to call this man. No idea. So I thought, well, okay, nothing to lose. So I went along and saw this man. He was sitting in a weird place in Euston, right, at the back of Beyond, with strange plants and even stranger wall decorations and stranger people. So I went in and he said, tell me about yourself. I said, well, how long have we got? I thought this was a 35, 40-minute, I need hours. I'm not going to do this. And I went to walk away. He went, you could go and sit outside, he said. I could see other people and we could talk later. I said, okay, fine. So anyway, I went back in after everybody had gone. And he said to me, right, tell me about yourself. And that was the beginning of a 40-year friendship. Because the man was one of the best esoteric healers out. He was at the early part of his career, and I just said to him, look, I know this is going to sound really weird. You ask why I'm here, but this voice came along and told me I was going to die if I went to hospital. And he looked forward, he went, I can help you. So I suddenly thought, okay, I'll sit with it. And he said, you have to be quite strong about this, Robert. He said, because you're going to get worse before you get better. I went, okay. Well, I was basically racked with pain in bed and being absolutely ill as you like for weeks, about 6 weeks. Half of the time I didn't know what was happening. I ended up being back at my parents and then calling a doctor in the early hours of the morning. He'd stumble up after having been called out of his dinner party with a syringe full of morphine going, right, okay, I'm where? And I'd go, no. And my parents thought I'd been taken over by some weird sect because clearly I was in agony and they couldn't work it out. Well, cometh the day, I suddenly woke up and thought, wow, this is what it feels like to be healthy. I've never been healthy before. And so my parents then went, I think we've got to meet this guy and we've got to meet these people you're mixing with. And so then the journey of exploration on both the other side of life, the spiritual side of life, and the sort of the walking on both worlds happened, because I got a telephone call about some 6 or 7 years later. Robert, you've got to come here. I was still practicing a trance of air and doing my business, but they said, you've got to come to this place. So I went along and sat down, and there were all these people sitting in a circle. And I said, so what am I supposed to be doing? They said, just do whatever comes to you. I found out that they'd had a rather bad experience. This was many years later. And they'd had a really dark spirit come in the middle of their group, trashed everything and did lots of damage. And when they prayed and said, what do we do? They said, call Robert. And Martin was the only person who knew who Robert was. So I got in there. It was the hardest work of my life for the next 4 hours. And so I went over and spoke to the medium leading the circle and said, how dare you do this? Why? And she said, if we'd have told you, would you have come? I went, good point. No. And I then found out that I had this gift of communication for when it was needed, particular souls and spirits would come through and help to deliver whatever it was for those people or that group or whatever. So then I did energy healing and transference healing for, well, ever since really, but was still keeping my foot in the sort of the world to pay the mortgage and keep everything going, until such a time as I got a message to write, come away from that because it's distracting you and you need to be able to focus and get into this realm. Now this realm is the signpost realm, because Nobody tells you what to do. You just wait. And either there's a signpost or there's a knock on the door, and you think, okay, I will go with this. Now, one of the things on this journey is I've met many people who've had similar experiences, and they've come through health situations, work situations, family breakups, and they've all ended up going through a different variety of healing modalities, which have included, and I wrote a little list down earlier, etheric transfer, radiesthesia, energy healing, distance healing, acupuncture, crystal healing, reflexology, homeopathy, the hands-on healing, chiropractic, herbalism, cranial osteopathy. I mean, literally, the list is endless. And that's why I say to people, one size does not fit all. You have to find what it is that resonates with you. And the resonate is, if we go back to the 60s, it's very simple. If you take the two preeminent groups of the time, the Beach Boys and the Beatles, one was saying, all you need is love. And the other was saying, good vibrations. Absolutely spot on, because that, if you put the love and you put the vibrational energy together, you can actually move on. And people say, so, well, how do I start? And I say, it's very simple. Start with energy. And they go, how? What? Well, you know, is this a good sound or a bad sound? It's a Tibetan temple bell. Or this one. Buddhist prayer bell. Now, you won't be able to hear this, but I can assure you these work beautifully. This is an Om tuning fork. So when you give it a whack and put it to either your ear, your center, or any part of your body that needs attention, you get the vibrational element which raises the vibration and gets you into flow. Similarly, if you know anything about frequencies, and I'll assume you don't for the benefit of this, that Om frequency is at 136. But if you go to the solfeggio frequencies, which in actual fact there's one here, it's a completely different sensation because you're treating in as opposed to around. It's a purity of sound, and that vibrates at a cellular level inside you and leaves your body able to receive more on different levels. So once you've worked with the energy and once you've got the chakras open, you can suddenly find a very different help for yourself, and you can give a different help to those others. Now, not many people just get yanked out of their normal life as I was and told, right, this is what you do. But actually, when people have found that stillness, that joy, and that flow, people around them start to come to them like magnets because they can see and they can feel these people are able to help and these people are able to give. And, you know, a lot is said about gratitude, but it's very true. Gratitude is the one thing that enables you to get more, not selfishly, but because you're already feeling the love and the light from what you've already received. And the ancient wisdoms are very true. So, you know, for example, my grandmother, bless her, always used to say, now then, everything in moderation, a little bit of what you fancy does you good, and always look at what you've got, not what you haven't. And these simple things that have come through the generations have actually helped people, especially in these straitened times, to stay on the level. Because one of the things that obviously we all know is that there's been a fear factor going on through broadcast media, the written word, and people getting all sorts of things thrown at them. But once you rise above it and you get in touch with what can actually help you, you'll find that those messages just fade away. You're not that bothered anymore. And the beauty of it is you start seeing the positives. You start seeing the signposts that say this direction for more, this direction for help, this direction to be more spiritual, this direction for more success of what it is that you want. And it's very lovely once you start getting a few of those. And if you've got your very special memories in your hand and your special places, and you can center and tune into that, you will then be able to get yourself out from whatever it is that is bothering you and into a safe love and light space. Now, what I'll do is I'll stop there, Christine, in case you've got any questions or you want to ask me, and then I'll draw breath before I go on to the more detail.
Right. Oh, thanks. Thank you, Robert. That was fascinating. Yeah. Has anybody got any questions? If you'd like to just unmute.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I came in late. I had to do something. But you know, very interesting, Robert. Loving it. Could you just go through those? Can I just grab a pen and you go through those 5 points originally? That.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Just get a pen. Just a sec.
Well, I think it's being recorded. If you want to get
Robin, it is
a recording
being
recorded.
Of it, I can send it to you.
But I will go through it for you, Robin. Basically, it's called anchoring, and with your fingers, first of all, you want to anchor in your happy place, a forest, your garden, you know, your favorite chair, whatever that may be, and feel it.
As well. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, and then you want to get into the feeling of joy, you know, when you had a child born, or when you got married, or when you looked over Cape Town Bay, or whatever it is, and you feel that, and you anchor it to the place. You've got two emotions in the same space. And then the sound. What sound was it that made you feel really happy, relaxed, and full of life and vibrancy? As I said, it could be the wind through the trees, the lapping of an ocean, tweeting of beautiful birds in the forest, whatever it is, and you put that in. Each time putting another finger towards your anchor, which is the thumb. And then when you have made a difference, so, you know, a lot of people in these days feel a bit helpless and hopeless because of what the government and various other people have thrown at us. But you know when you've made a difference, you know when you've helped people, you know when you've made other people's lives better and whatever. And when you get that feeling of how that felt to be able to help, you put that on. So you've made a difference, and you put them all together, and then you press them together from your hand like that. And then slowly you can put them into a soft fist. And what that is, that gives you a flow, because you're now connecting to all those beautiful energies that you had in the past. And from there on in, you then can go forwards to whatever it is that you want to do.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Really interesting.
Robert, could I ask you about the tuning fork? Are they easy
Yes,
to
you may.
get hold of? Are they easy to get hold of? It's fascinating.
Well, they are fascinating, because I said you can't hear this because it's at 136 frequency. So, but they are amazing, because even if you're feeling distressed or depressed, you give it a little, and literally by the ear, and you can feel the vibration going right the way through your cranium. It's absolutely lovely. Yeah. I normally, I say to people, if you haven't got a holistic supplier near you, go on to Amazon and look for tuning forks, 136 hertz, which is what this one is. I think 136.1, I think, actually, maybe 136.1. So
yeah, brilliant. And what was the other one you had after? Sorry, you haven't finished that. Sorry.
Yeah, the solfeggio frequency ones, they're much higher. So this, I think, is about 528. Very pure sound.
What's that called, please?
Solfeggio frequency, and this is probably a 528 gigahertz, but you can get a whole range of tuning forks. I mean, you start off with a couple of basic ones, but you can have they are tuning fork sets that go across the whole spectrum, because different levels of vibration affect different organs, you know, your heart, your liver, you know, pineal gland, whatever, and you can actually then tune in with them. And some have got a soft spot on the end like this, where you can actually then get the vibration going into the actual organ. And it is wonderful, because that, as a healing modality, it's so underrated. I mean, sound generally is underrated.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for that.
Yeah, well, they're a very quick fix, but actually, if you use them, I mean, we use the on one in my family because even if one of the kids is upset, whatever, they get it and they strike it and they just play with it for a couple of minutes and they're like, oh wow, better now.
I think I'll look for one of those. Are they expensive or not too
No,
much?
I mean you can get them for 20 quid or something. I mean,
Okay.
they used to be a lot more, but I mean, I think Taiwan and China and whatever have gone onto it and entered the fray, and so they've brought the price down considerably.
Lovely, thank you. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Could I ask about the solfeggio fork that goes to a cellular level?
Yes.
That one that you have at 5 to 8, that's generally right for any part of the body.
The thing is, because we're all very different, we and I said you have to try to what's good for you. And what I've said to people is, you genuinely, you may resonate at a different level, and your body may actually find that it's better to work to 4-3-6 or whatever, and you have to see how they resonate with you, because and it's like medicines, some medicines and some therapies will work for some people, and for some it's just no work for me, I'm not doing it again. But it's a genuine sort of way. I would say those are your two basic frequencies. But if you go online and you look them up, there's now fortunately quite a bit of information as to what organs in the body and what they're doing. But as a genuine, the one is a very good cure-all general fix-it, because it will bring you away from that into that.
Thanks very much.
Can I ask you, how do you spell solfeggio?
Oh, now you're asking a question, aren't you? I don't know.
I've just looked it up actually, Robert. It's SOL. I think it's SOLLEGGIO. I've just looked it up. I'll just look.
Solfeggio.
Solfeggio, yeah.
Solfeggio, right? Okay. Well, that's going to be great. Somebody's got the spelling book,
Thank you.
But a lot of these things, again, if you get to the right thing for you, amazingly, other things will open up, and you'll find suddenly, there may be a crystal that could help you with that. Why don't you try that crystal, that solution, that healing? And you can go off down a very specific for you healing paradigm with different things, that will actually help you. And I know some of you might have heard me talk about crystals before, because there's a huge range of different crystals, again, that are all this vibrational element that is helping with your molecular structure and transferring that energy to you.
Yes, that's fascinating with the crystals. I think particularly last year, well, all the time in the last years, there's been so much fear and anxiety and worry, and I think you were helping quite a bit with those things, to help people get out of that and to raise the
Well, and especially, as we know, we discussed it, I don't want to get too specific, but there's some very good crystals that will absorb dark energy, like tourmaline and black obsidian, and they're protecting as well. You have to be a bit careful with them, because you can have too much and then you can flip into unwanted side effects. But for protection, certainly crystals are wonderful. And I don't know any healers or any people who've been around the sort of spiritual world for any time who haven't got loads of crystals in different rooms around their house, or in fact charging their water, because there's some wonderful charging properties that the crystals have got, and cleansing properties. And bearing in mind, most of the water now isn't that clean, even the bottled stuff. It's very useful.
Yeah, it's a whole, there's so much to learn. And it's interesting when you said one thing leads to another, which is very, you look at this and then, or you meet someone who's talking about this, and then it just expands and grows, which is wonderful.
Well, and one of the things is that you're vibrating at a different level, and so you're putting out something that's you're going to then meet other things. And one of the things that I found fascinating, I don't want to get too woo-woo here, but when when you actually start to get to a level where you understand the energies and the resonance, and you are clearing and able to get other things, you get other dimensional stuff coming in as well. Because suddenly you have tuned your radio transmitter to, VHF from AM or long wave or whatever, and you're getting a lot of different stuff. And that's fascinating, because you think, oh, well, I've never had that before. And, you can constantly get surprised, no matter how old you are, because you are in a different place. We're not the same. Every cell in your body's been replaced over 7 years. So you're not the same entity that you were 7 years ago, and you won't be in another 7 years. But you can actually make sure that you put yourself in a situation where your radio dial is in a new and exciting place.
Oh, Linda put the spelling of the solfeggio. Shall I? It's S.
Yep.
Did you get it?
No, go on, go for it.
SOLFEGGIO.
My Italian's not that good, but that's great.
Sounds very good.
Well, there's a lot of those things that are on sort of harmonic bands, and they're different frequencies, but they all stay within that sort of healing category or that opening category. And so it's very nice. But I mean, again, just experiment, just play around with it and see how it goes, because there's no right or wrongs. The only thing is, protection is quite good, by the way. If you're starting opening up your chakras, you do need to how to protect yourself so that you get the right energies coming in, not the wrong energies. But there's quite a lot written about that as well. I'll be specific if anybody wants me to be, but I was trying to sort of just do a helicopter view.
So Robert, do you run a energy clinic or anything like that?
No, I'm retired, but I do things by request. So what happens is, it's like I joked with Christine earlier, is she asked me very, very nicely, and so I said, yeah, okay. But I do, if you've got a group that you want me to talk to about anything, and there's lots of subjects along this road that you can actually do a deep dive into, but on something like this, which is just a sort of a brief hour overview, you can only just scratch the surface of each of them.
Excuse me, Robert.
Yes.
May I ask, what about sounds within the environment? Because I live opposite a church, and of course the bells sound for the hour and the half hour. And here there is also, it plays the Angelus, which at one time, I suppose the whole village would stop to say the Angelus. So I never really thought about the vibration. However, that must have attracted me to be here.
It would do. It would do. Absolutely. I mean, in my church, we sing the Angelus every week, and we have some beautiful voices that come out with it, and it is literally spine tingling and leaves everybody with that wonderful gratitude, that wonderful energy of, wow, thank you. And that's what's probably attracted you to that space. Yeah, absolutely. Of course, why people like living by crashing waves, or they like living on the edge of a forest. All those sounds, which are nature in the raw, are really relaxing.
And you've spoken about folklore and your grandmothers. And again, this would have been something that the whole community was involved with, the sound of the bells and the timing of their work and so on. To stop and pause.
Very right. Yeah, because it's very nice to hear a. Why not? Because it brings everything into sharp focus. and people, this literally, I hear the bells, I hear, but they were, and that, so whether or not it was joyous ringing of bells, or an alarm, you know, if there was an invasion or whatever, those sounds were absolutely, and you're right, Colette, absolutely an integral part of their lives. And of course, the musical instruments as well, because they'd get together and have concerts in the local hall and whatever, real music, again, to lift the spirit.
I have some bells that Tibetan bells, which I do house clearing with, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Just
I mean,
go,
I use,
if the energy in the house doesn't feel right, or I've had odd people in the house or something like that.
yeah. Well, I use tincture bells for that, because I found the tincture, just the little hand bells that you know clap together.
Yeah, that's
But
mine on little hand. Yeah.
Yeah, they really work well for that, for getting rid of negative energy and whatever. And there's some other sprays and some different things. In fact, you know, you sometimes, I don't know if you've had this, Robin, you go in to clear something and things start throwing themselves off the wall or moving about, and they're not very happy. They go, but they're not very happy that you know what to do. And it is that sound, it's that purity of sound which cleanses. Yeah.
And you can even do it with people as well, can't you? I mean, if they're standing, you know, somebody's really stressed out or something, and you can just do the bells around them. And
well, I mean, I use the singing bowls for that, because the
Yeah.
singing bowls have got such a, so if you put it on their hand and get them to play it, the vibrations going right the way into their body.
yeah,
And you can see the calming down effect. I mean, I used to do it with my girls because they used to get a bit sort of upset about, you know, girly issues at school and all that. And you just put, you know, like for example here, you just put a singing bowl on their hand and say, right, okay. And they just sit down there, they'd start to play it. Once they got that going, you probably can't hear that from over
I
there.
can, yeah.
But the vibration that's coming through is wonderful. That's the trick with those sort of things. And again, you know, it's simple, but if you get the bowls, you know, if you go for something like the Mind, Body, Spirit exhibition or somewhere, there's always people there with different elements of bowls and bells. You have to feel it and you have to let it come to you, because it's no good to those sort of things you can't order off the internet, because you have to have a relationship with that, especially the singing bowls and the bells. And then you'll just think, oh yeah, that's the one. You feel it, it's right, you play it, and you just get that lovely feeling, you know. And it's wonderful when you see
shifts the energy completely.
yeah, and when you see newbies at these sort of exhibitions at like Mind, Body, Spirit at Olympia, which is coming up soon, you know, and they suddenly go, whoa, you know, and that you can see it's hitting them at absolute cellular level, you know, that is wonderful. Yeah.
I just heard about a candlelit sound bath and meditation experience that they do regularly in London, in a centre in Brompton Road, which are kind of, I just heard about it yesterday. So I know they do them in lots of places, but that's something I really would like to try.
Again, with sound bath and gongs, they're getting at a resonant level in your body. But of course, you don't know what the space is, and you don't know what the gongs are. I mean, a friend of Christine's and ours and Alan's, the lady there, she's now gone on to gong baths, so the sound meditation. But she's really good in making sure that the space is really clean, really positive, you know, because what you don't want to do is open up when there's negativity around. So you have to be a little careful. But if you get, recommendation is the best, and if you find someone who then says, oh yeah, this person, she's really good, she cleans the space, she sages it, she's, you know, she makes sure everything, and then you go for your sound bath, then it's a beautiful experience.
Amy's put a question on here, Robert.
Okay.
She's asking, can the sounds of the language we speak have an impact too? Amy's very interested in she works in North mythology, and she works with the 9 realms of the world tree. Amy does the runes, and she's saying it's Should really ask her to say this herself.
Yeah, I can read it out. So I was just writing that.
Can you say? Sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I wasn't sure, because sometimes I do work with the 9 realms of the world tree, and sometimes I wonder if I'm just making this up. But what's come through for me is that the 9 realms are connected to the 9 sounds of creation, and then I've been told to sort of sing these nasal vowel sounds that they still have in Scandinavian language, which seem to sort of create a vibration, like in my third eye space. I just wondered if the language that we speak is kind of having an impact as well then.
Well, if I tell you, Amy, that when I was telling you earlier on about the story of being hauled into this group that got themselves into trouble, the first spirit that appeared was a Norseman who stuck a bloody great sword in my hand and did that. So, and all that was coming through, and I'm going, whoa, okay. And I followed through the resonant sounds, and then we had all the sort of stones that were put out as well, all Norse. And so yes, there's a lot of connection, and again with those sounds. And if you look at sort of a didgeridoo and you look at all these primal instruments, they're all working with vibration. Vibration, and that's with the those are the sounds. It's getting to that level of a communication at a cellular level, not at an auditory level. So yeah, you're right.
That's helpful, thank you.
Yeah, you're definitely not making it up, Amy. You're
No,
on to something there. It's
yeah, you're not
fantastic.
away with the fairies. You may be away with the
Okay.
Norse gods, but not the fairies. Yeah.
That's exactly, yeah, it's helpful because there's also 24 Elderfuthar runes, and I found out recently there's 24 consonant sounds as well. So I'm like, is it all just connected in some
clicking together?
Well, I mean, I went years and years ago. I went to a rune workshop where you made your own runes, and the lady who was there, who was the incarnation of a Norse goddess, I mean, fascinating woman, mad as a hatter, but I mean, wonderful. And we all went into this rune workshop basically thinking, oh, well, it's something else, and came out going, oh my goodness, wow, there's a lot in this. So yeah, and I would say to anybody, this is why there's so many different disciplines, and one size doesn't fit all, but you can always find that little bit of what it is that works for you, and then you bring it in your own toolbox, because I've been at this for 40 years, and so there's lots of different things in the toolbox. And I've said to people, I love going to a different workshop with somebody who's got something else that works, because you think, yeah, great, okay, because you can use that then for the children, or you could use it for other people. And one of the things I've done for years, I've done Tai Chi and Qi Gong. I mean, Qi Gong, I say to people, it takes years to get it, but once you've got it, you will be so grateful, because it teaches you all the energy meridians in your body, and it gets you completely focused, so that when you do want to then meditate or do exercise or whatever, you're completely aligned and everything's at the right level. But when people first do it, they go, well, it's all this funny movement with the hands. Yeah. But then suddenly the penny drops, and that can take 2, 3, 4, 5 years. But energy work is fantastic, because when you align the body, with the energy and all the meridians, you find that all these other things work so much better as well.
And Amy, I know, is working with the runes, with helping children, as you just said, and you might like to say a little bit about that. You're finding it amazing what's coming up with working with the runes, aren't you? With the work that you do, it's just fantastic. Yeah.
I think they've just, well, for me, I use them as tools for just reflection as well. So practicing tapping into, I guess it's your own inner resonance as well, isn't it? And making sense of, I don't know, just picking up on a different language. So this, for example, I work with trees quite a bit, so it's, I don't know,
lovely.
Pick up on a language of different things.
It's brilliant. Yeah, there's just so many wonderful things I think that people are now working with. Has anyone else got any questions at all?
Fascinating, really lovely. Whereabouts are you based, Robert?
I'm down in Hertfordshire.
Okay, right.
Robert,
Yes.
Just 4 weeks ago, I had a hip replacement.
Right.
And sound is very important to me. Vibration. I'm a part-time DJ.
Ah, wonderful.
And every morning I send out music to thousands of people, just one track.
Beautiful.
Classical
Beautiful,
or whatever.
Roger.
And it's very helpful. I found that the more I take in the music that's beautiful, it's like sending love to every cell in my body. And my scar has healed so quickly.
Yes, yes.
And everything has come to me at the right time for my healing. Even an earthly angel that has been administering to me in these last 4 weeks. It's made me very tearful, very humble.
Well,
And,
you know, Roger, it's great to hear that. It really is, because that's the other thing, and I haven't obviously had time to get onto it, is that when people are in that state of, oh, I need to be healed, headphones on, favorite tracks of music, whatever that may be, and that is absolutely healing. And funny enough, that the healer that I first met, we ended up going to different concerts together, you know, because he was a great Pink Floyd fan. And we used to go and, you know, do our thing. But you'd always come out, as you said, Roger, with that music going, wow, and it resonates through you, and it's absolutely lovely. So, and thank you so much, you know, for sending those tracks out to all those people, because good music is an absolute delight and savior.
Thank you.
Anyone else wanted to? Robert, you'd said earlier about the protection, and you said and then we skip on to something else. I think it might be quite useful for everybody, maybe just to look at maybe some really good ways of. I mean, I think a lot of people here know.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
but
again. Yeah, again, I mean, it depends what work you're doing and what you want to do. But as a general guideline, if you want to clear a place of negative energies, if you sage the room and then use Palo Santo or one of those other sacred woods or sage, you can actually then make sure that the negativity is dispelled. I use a quick fix, which I borrowed from a healer many years ago, to do a Chinese blue man, which you're imagining you're in a blue diving suit, and there's a big dome above your head, ball of like so brilliant it's like mercury. You explode it, all the shards go between you and the blue man, and suddenly you'll get this wonderful feeling of, gosh, stay quiet for a couple of minutes, and you have dispelled not only the negativity, but you've given yourself protection. And so the blue man is a very good sort of emergency one to use, especially if you're in a sort of worrisome environment. But there are lots of sprays. I mean, I use a wonderful spray called Spirit Spray. It's by a lady called Corinne Taylor. She's online. It's not cheap, but it's a mixture of Palo Santo and sage and various other things. And literally a quick zap around the room, or sometimes just over your aura, and it cleanses any negativity straight away. And if you're doing any healing work, of course, it's always good to keep some holy water around as well, because you never know when you need it.
Great. Yeah, and I mean, everyone obviously will have their own methods of
doing
what they do and what works, but it's sometimes nice to know about other things. Yeah,
and if you've done any work, and I know that one of the girls that we used to do, she used to have a banana, so she sort of lit, not a metaphoric banana, and she said she zipped herself up in this protective banana of gold, and you know, she was in it and zipped it up, and then she was completely protected. So again, it's just what you're happy with and how you feel, but it's certainly good to work with protection. And if you want to do any sending of vibes or whatever, put yourself into a good protected space first. Always worthwhile.
Yeah. Thanks. Great. Anybody else want to ask anything?
I'd just like to say, because you know, I've have a lot of groups that I'm involved with. I'd just like to say, Robert, would you come to in person, come to an event where we could have like an energy clearing day or something like that?
Happy to discuss it.
I'm only thinking in, long term in the future.
Yeah, happy to discuss it with you, Robin. Yeah, certainly in the future. Yeah. So yeah, you know where I am. Ping me, and we
how
can.
Far? I mean, I'm 20 minutes north of Brighton. So how far away would you think you would be from there?
Oh, I mean, not very far at all, really.
Maybe
Yeah, I
an
could do
hour.
that. Yeah, hour and a bit, maybe hour and a half or something. Hour and 20 minutes.
All right.
Yeah.
Fab.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, fascinating. I'm really fascinated.
I think you'll be coming out of retirement, Robin.
Well, aren't we all?
Yeah, we are. I mean, as
Yeah.
and Roger with his music as well, which is bringing people's vibration up, because at this time, what we all need is to reconnect with that joy and that fundamental wow vibration. And of course, there's no accident. I mentioned the 60s and the Beatles and the Beach Boys. Woodstock, what was that all about? Pure joy, vibrational joy. Music, okay, forget the smoking, but it was joy, because it was an expression. And so now what the authorities are trying to do, and the New World Order, I won't go into it, but is to reduce that joy and suppress and put everybody in fear, because guess what? It's easy to control people when they're in fear. So if you don't go along with that, and you get yourself into a real feeling of joy, happiness, and light, wash, they can't get at you.
Important, I think, particularly now, it's just got out of hand, hasn't it? This continuum. I mean, you just have to keep away from any television news, all this stuff. Keep away.
When they actually said, I think, was it 2 or 3 weeks ago, that what leaked out was that they'd got the government army propagandists and whoever they were, actually they were using army level, war level psyops against their own population. Well, excuse me, there's something in all constitutions that said, you are not supposed to harm your own people.
Yeah, they forgot that bit, I think, because we had all that a few yeyears ago, didn't we? They've admitted it now that that's what they did.
Well, you know what? I think it's because they're on the run, really. I mean, they've had their day, the cabal, if you like, and they're just throwing everything at the population now because they're losing. And this is why they're trying to ramp up the whole situation with Ukraine, and even Biden's gone over there now. I mean, he's so ineffectual, really, and that it's because they're losing, and it's because they know that the light is winning, really, basically. And I think that the next few weeks or months might see a lot of hyped up news, etc. But it's all a big psyop. We've just got to actually just think, well, this is a load of rubbish, and just keep staying in our space and in our light, and knowing that we're all going to be fine, and not being afraid of what's going on.
That's right.
I think that also links into why people are being sort of called out of retirement, because for example, I really resonate with that, because I sort of closed my Reiki business a couple of months ago so that I could focus on home-editing my kids. And then I got to the point where I was like, I really miss this. This is like my third child. I miss my business. And then all of a sudden, some of my old students have come back to me and wanted to book their next courses. And all of a sudden now I'm booking work in again. And I think it's because those of us who have that capacity to do that light work, I think we're being called on at the moment. We're not allowed to be retired anymore. We're needed.
Absolutely, Jen.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, it's tough for you because you've got the children full time, so to fit all that in,
yeah, it's getting really a bit complicated. Looking, people are like, when can you do this? And it's like, well, like 3 months time, and it only on a Saturday when my ex has got the kids. But I just think if I'm meant to be doing it, then the universe will sort it out.
Yes,
and I
right.
give everything up to the upstairs team and just go, if you want me to do this, then put me in the right circumstances to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's the way to go. Absolutely.
Well, I've figured out by now I'm not in control of any of this. I've given up trying to control it.
Jen, can I just ask you who your upstairs team are, or do you just put it up generally? Because that was another point I was going to get onto, is that having your mastermind spiritual alliance that you can put stuff up to. I mean, you can put it up to the universe generally, but do you have any specifics or not? I mean, you don't have to answer.
I have a few specifics that I've worked with since doing my Reiki, and especially my Karuna. Right. So I work a lot with Jesus, Mother Mary, Archangel Michael, also some sort of Hindu and Buddhist deities as well. I've got quite an eclectic mixed team up there. And I also work with ancestral guides in terms of, I know that my son's godfather is up there, and I know that my grandma, who died just over a year ago, she sort of visits quite a lot and things like that. So I'm aware of some of them, but I'm also aware that I've got quite a big team up there and they've not all introduced themselves yet, or maybe I'm not quite listening to all of them individually yet.
Well, it's lovely because I have a similar sort of team, and it's funny because they cross over, you know, from the religions as well. And I was actually helping somebody who particularly was talking about her religion, and I said, oh yeah, I said, but that's not it, is it? I said, because I've got someone here, I said, who said that you are actually thinking of going to him, and it was a Hindu who came through, and it was like special message for her, and I delivered the message to her, and she was like mind blown. I said, well, you're very lucky because you've got a one, you know, coming straight to you. So she went off and she actually then became a fully conversant Hindu priest, because she was literally called Bosch. And so when you've got that lovely group of people, you know, and that's why I was saying one fit doesn't fit one suit, not for all, and you know, same sort of thing. If you've got these different energies and these different people coming in, different spirits helping. So you, Jen, no way should be retiring, not with that lot up there to help us.
No, they won't.
I know they're all sort of sitting there waiting for me, and I'm kind of like, well, put me in the right circumstances, because I'm waiting to move house at the moment. And we thought we were supposed to be moved by now, and my buyer pulled out literally on the day of exchange, which was quite upsetting. And then I'm kind of looking up I'm having a lot of conversations with ceilings going, come on, sort this out. If you want me to be where I'm meant to be, which is right next to a lovely beach. And I'm quite lucky that people in the upwards chain are waiting for me to get a new buyer, but it's been going on about a month now, and I'm sort of sitting there going, come on, universe, your move. And we'll see. So I'm just trying to sort of keep the faith at the moment and say, you know, whatever work you want me to do, you need to put me in the right place with the right people so that I can do that work. And we'll see what happens.
There's a very good feng shui exercise for moving. And I'm trying to remember the detail of it, but it's basically to do with writing something on red paper and then putting it in the water. I know people who've done this when they've got stuck with moves have suddenly gone, wow. Can't remember the exact details of it, but maybe looking it up. Feng shui moving, as I said, red paper, and it's throwing whatever it is into moving water.
Well, we have our very own feng shui expert here on the call. Huh? Penny is a retired feng shui, but she still does a bit, don't you, Penny?
I do, but I haven't heard of that one actually, Robert, about when people are stuck with moving. Typically what I say to people is to actually write what it is that you want on a piece of paper, and then to either burn it and bury the ashes in a favourite place so that it goes back to the earth. So now I'll be fascinated. I'm going to go have a look.
Yeah.
Well, as somebody who had a chain of estate agencies in his previous life, as well as a few other things, it was really weird because I was going out with a lady who is a feng shui master, mistress, whatever you call them there, and I don't want to get into a gender debate, and she said, "Look, just tell them to do this." Many years ago. Anyway, it was amazing because all the chains that were blocking up and people who couldn't move suddenly go, "Wow!" So yeah, I know it works. I just can't remember the actual detail of it, but I'm sure someone will be able to look it up.
It's fascinating. And Penny, I'm going to ask you now that we hope you will come back and give us another talk, because you gave us a talk a few years ago.
I will do. Probably it'll have to be a little later on.
Yeah. Not next week, don't worry.
Of course I will. Yeah, very much.
It's wonderful. You gave us a lovely talk a few years ago. 2
Aw.
talks, in fact. It was really helpful. It was great. I think people loved it. So
Yeah, happy to.
thank you. Yeah. Great. Anybody else want to ask anything?
Say any more about its helpers?
Oh yes. Were you going to talk a bit about your helpers, Robert, anymore, or did you say?
Well, I mean, they're a similar eclectic bunch, actually, those we just heard. But yes, ancestors, some Hindu gods who've been useful. Just Jesus and Mother Mary, certainly. The archangels, and there's lots of, and they come in specifically for different people and different healings.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, I had an experience probably about a year ago, probably a year and a half, and I was trying to get some healing for someone. I was sitting, and suddenly I had Archangel Gabriel at full power coming on me. I was struck dumb for an hour. I had tears running down my face. It was just the most extraordinary thing. But what they normally do, they don't come full bore because it's too overwhelming. But obviously, on that particular occasion, they decided they were going to do the whole thing. And yeah, the person I was with was, "Are you okay?" And all I could go was, but yeah, so that's extraordinary. And then you get different ones. Again, you know, when people have got an issue and you are trying to tap in, you can get sometimes their ancestors who come in to help, and sometimes another angel that you've never spoken to or whatever, and they come in with a very specific message as to what the person should do. You know, and as Jen was saying there, you know, when she's working with Reiki, when you're working with energy and whatever, you get all this help that's coming in. And sometimes, you know, you can actually get it to the point where it comes into you, and you know, you can feel it coming into your hand, and you think, whoa, and you have to just put your hand on whatever it is that is causing the problem, and you feel all the pain and discomfort coming in. Obviously, you've got to get rid of it, otherwise you can take on stuff yourself. And then people's reaction is, "Oh my God, it's gone," you know. And there's a lot of that, and that's very specific with those particular spirits and angels that come in. There's also, I mean, the trees. I mean, there's so many beautiful plant spirits, you know, which is why people feel good in the forest as well. And of course, talking to plants, talking to trees, and I know Prince Charles was often lambasted for it back in the day, but he was right, because those elemental spirits, again, can be very healing at an energetic level. I don't normally sort of give you any sort of detailed info, but my goodness me, yes, hug a good energy tree and you feel a lot better. So, I mean, I've had a couple of, well, like Archangel Gabriel, but I've had a couple of other experiences which have literally knocked my socks off. But normally it's doing stuff for other people, you know, and sometimes when there's been attack on someone you love, on people that you know need protection, you can get some very powerful forces that will take a direct intervention route on things. And I've had that before, is that right, and it's offered, and I've said to the people, you know, sometimes these are very evolved spiritual people, so they do get it. And I said, look, I don't know what might happen, but, and they go, yes, and then it's up to them if they want to use what's being offered. And you know, that's like the Ark of a Covenant, and a couple of times that's happened. It's been awesome. You know, just yeah.
I just share an experience. A dear friend who was 81, last week, kept sending me beautiful haiku poems and cards. And then she sent on Monday a love letter about her life. She died on Saturday night and was found at home. Because I couldn't travel, I couldn't be there. But last night I had the most wonderful dream of being there, holding her hand and just feeling her energy. I'm feeling her really smile. She was a very prickly elder. She'd had a stroke and she often resonated to anger instead of love. But I found a way of just hugging her when she went to that place, and the tears would rumble down her face. And she would really find a deep healing. And over the years that I've cared for her, and been in contact with her daily in Hebden Bridge, which is where I live near, she's taught me so many things by just meditating with her and just listening to her and massaging her feet, doing some reflexology. And it's just been a wonderful lesson for me. She's teaching me how to die to the next place, to the next adventure. And it's just to take fear away from death. And it was a lovely dream. Just wanted to share that.
Yeah,
Lovely.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think getting rid of that kind of fear of death would be a big help to a lot of people, wouldn't it? It really would. Yeah. Great. Does anybody else want to ask anything, or anything else we'd like to discuss, Robert, while we've got
Did
you
you
here?
see that message, Christine? Can you let Andrea
Yes,
into the Zoom?
I did, yeah. I don't know where she's gone, but I did let her in.
Yeah, if we're talking about guides and helpers, something which in your normal life you can do as well, which is to create a mastermind group. So this may be people that you've lost along the way, or it may be people in history, whatever it is. And once you get into a Zen-like state, you can then ask to be connected. You know, imagine yourself sitting at the head of a table and you bring them in. So, you know, you want this person for that and this person for that, whatever. And eventually they'll all be around your table, and that's your mastermind group. And then you can ask them whatever it is you want and let them chat between each other and let them come up with a solution for you. And that can work in times of crises or in times of difficulties, because you're able to tap into infinite wisdom, which again takes a bit of practice, but to create that, and some people just do it, you know, with their past aunts, uncles, grandmothers, grandfathers, whatever. It's fine, whoever it is. But I mean, some people then will do it with brilliant brains from the past, and then they'll wake up in the morning and they'll not only have got a solution, that they've probably got an invention or something which has come to them, you know. And a lot of musicians do this with knowingly or unknowingly with musicians from the past. And for example, you'll hear a musician say, like Paul McCartney, well, I don't know, but I woke up and I had yesterday in my head in a dream, and it was complete from bit. I just wrote it down. Now, we know, us who know of these things, where that came from, and it's not in his head, it's actually from up there. And it just, right, okay, we want this song in. And as Roger knows, you know, there's one of the most beautiful songs because it's been played countless times and copied out stuff. And so it's like, okay, the universe wants that in, well, we'll just get that. And so it's received. And I mean, my daughter, bless her, she does automatic writing, which we found quite alarming when she did it at school when she was little. But yeah, everybody gets used to these things. And you know, when she doesn't know what to do, she just picks up a pencil and she tunes in, and off her hand goes. And yeah, so there's, again, once you get into that level of contact, once you get into your masterminds or your spirits or your angels, it's extraordinary. And again, not one suit fits all. The horses for courses, and so it is in the spirit world.
Yeah, that's great. So just thinking about the ley lines and things that we've you know, that some people are drawn to them, and we've actually been working on some of them, you know, to activate them. And a lot of it seems that an awful lot of people are really getting into that now, which seems wonderful. That, you know, they're really going in, finding out, doing work on them. And
well, as we know, I mean, that's how energies, both positive and negative, are moved around. And unfortunately, you have to, as we know, because we've done that, you have to keep them clear, and you have to get other help in to clear their use by, you know, the powers of darkness. But yes, and more people are understanding that. Yeah, I mean, my partner went off to Glastonbury last week and took a photograph, and there, clear as day, was an absolute brilliant white shard of light that went right across, you know, the ley line underneath it. And you know, she went, "Oh my God, I didn't see that when I took the photograph." And I said, "Well, you can tell that it's not reflection. It's not. It's like orbs. When you capture orbs, you know, they appear, and people go, gosh, there must be energy out there we don't know." And I said, "Look, it's very simple. I mean, if you sort of ignore what they're doing with the ultra large hadron collider in Switzerland, but 95% of matter, we know we don't know what that is. So 5% we understand what's there. 95% nobody yet knows. That, sorry, was that me going wrong, or?
No, it's not you. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. So what we say is, right, okay, so how many times are you tapping in to a percent of that 95%? You don't know until, and you and I both know this, Christine and Alan does, that sometimes you get other energies who are in that hidden 95% who can come back out and help. But they're not available in the normal visual world or the normal world of experience and realms. They're on the outside of it. But you know that, but they're there to help. And this is, you know, one of the beautiful things. And you know, this is why, you know, Jen's right in terms of that, where everybody's being called back. Because if you can do whatever you can do, Roger with your music, Jen with your healing, me doing what I do, Robin with your wonderful sort of predictions and astrology and stuff, everybody has that bit to give.
Yes.
And so now we're being, right, come on, back into the fray, you know, and it's actually a wonderful time to be alive. I know people don't understand me when I say that, but it's a privilege to be here at this time of change. Because we are going through one of the biggest shifts in consciousness ever. And we're en route to something truly spectacular, you know, in the nearish future.
I do believe that, Robert. I really believe that we're all here for a reason. And then I think, well, you know, my whole life's gone by, and now all of a sudden everything is getting very interesting. And then I believe, you know, all my friends say, well, never mind, the med beds are coming in soon and we'll get another 20 years.
But the thing is, Robin, that we have all basically been learning during that time. And so that repository of knowledge is both, you know, within the world, within the 95%, and coming through us. And as I said, if we just tune our radio dial, we can get stations that, you know, we never knew were out there. And you, oh, wow, hang on a minute. That's fantastic. So yes, and that's why healers especially, and clairaudience, clairvoyance, energy workers, are all coming to the fore, because they can say, right, we can help. We can make this world happen, you know, quicker going forwards. You know, but Robin, I'm with you. I mean, there's just such a huge and positive sea change coming up. And it's unfortunate everybody's had to have gone through the horrors of the last few years. But, you know, sometimes, as they always say in the training rooms, no pain, no gain.
I know, but I mean, will you agree with me that, I mean, the last 5 years, all of us seem to have learned so much more.
Absolutely.
It's like,
yeah.
You know, I think I've learned more in the last 5 years than I have in the last 50, really.
Well, the veil has been lifted. And one of the things that's really interesting is there's lots of different things which have been veiled and kept from people, you know, because people weren't ready for it. And what's happening now, Robin, and you're quite right, is that those veils are lifting. And so people are seeing things and making contact with entities, spirits, you know, that they've never done before. And that's why they're here now, to help us to make sure that all the demonic stuff that's been happening, you know, gets pushed to one side, exposed, brought into the light, because it cannot deal with light and it cannot deal with lovely, joyful harmonics and love, because that's the great thing. You know, the demonic energies, they can't get at you if you're vibrating at a high frequency and you're in the light of Christ. No, that's it. And so people are now finding that that's coming to them and they're opening up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody's speaking.
Somebody trying to say something.
Robert, I'd like to say goodbye. It's been lovely to meet you.
And you, Roger.
I'm finding a little pain now, so I'm going to move.
You go and rest and get well soon, Roger. I'll be in touch. Lovely to see you.
Lots of healing for you, Roger.
Yes, we're sending
God
healing.
bless you.
Thank you. Lovely. I don't know who's right. Great.
Yeah, there is a noise coming through. I'm not quite sure who it might be. Any more before we say goodbye?
Anybody else want to say anything? Anyway, we've got lots to think about.
I'm going to have to go because it's my group tonight.
Wonderful stuff.
That's been so interesting, Robert, and I'm so glad that Christine invited me to join in today, because it's been absolutely fabulous.
Thank you, Robin.
So
thank you, Robert. I think from everybody, we've all found it amazing and great, and it's lovely to connect again. And
thank you.
You're always such a fund of knowledge, Robert. Love listening to you.
Yeah.
We've all got our knowledge.
As the old saying goes, Robin, we stand at the shoulders of the great.
Absolutely.
Can I just say hello to Annie Leone, because I used to know her such a long time ago.
I know, Robin.
It must be 30 years ago, maybe.
When we were all studying astrology, right? In the late 70s, early 80s.
Are you still studying astrology? Are you still an astrologer?
Absolutely.
Why don't you send me your email, Annie? Because I run a lot of free groups to do and with enlightened astrologers, basically.
I'll be in touch.
Yes.
So that'd be lovely to hear from you.
You too. I'll be in touch. Thank you so much, Robert, as well. It was
thank you, Robert, and thank you, Christine, for hosting it and inviting us. And take care and see you all soon.
Yes, lovely. Okay.
Thank you. See you later.
Soon.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank
Wonderful.
You, Steve, as well.
Very good.
Bye, Penny.
Bye. Bye, Bernard.